It's a hidden health hazard in your gut, and it may be the secret reason why you're exhausted. Find out what it is and whether you're at risk. Stay with us.
Up next, the hidden health hazard in your gut.
This patient had no idea that she was infected with thousands of these little worms.
Could a parasite be living off of you?
Now that you're all paying attention, here are the warning signs you might want to look for.
It may be the reason you're fatigued. Find out coming up.
We've explored on this show many reasons why you're exhausted, but there's one cause that's new even to me. Could a parasite be living in you, living off you, attacking you from the inside? Could this be the reason that you're fatigued? Now, it may sound exotic, something that only happens to people who travel overseas. But I was shocked to see this hidden health hazard in your gut is a growing problem in this country. Parasites. Microscopic creatures that can invade your body, living off it, stealing your nutrients, releasing toxins, causing debilitating diarrhea, weight loss, even death. These nasty bugs are not just a problem overseas. They're on the rise right here in America. More than 40 million people have already been infected with a parasite. These insidious intruders can attach to your gut and linger for years. Could this be the source of your internal inflammation, upset stomach and bowels, and incredible fatigue? Could parasites be the secret reason you're exhausted? Dr. Robin Chutkin is a gastroenterologist at Georgetown Hospital. There are millions of women watching right now who feel exhausted. Let's just cut to the chase. Is it really all that possible that parasites could be to blame?
It is a distinct possibility. As you said, there are millions of people in the U.S. who suffer from parasites. These are actually very common, not just overseas, but right here in the U.S. The problem is that these parasites can linger undetected in the intestinal tract for years. In fact, one study found that 46% of people diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome actually had parasites responsible for the symptoms. So this is a very real problem.
Almost half the people with chronic fatigue.
Almost half.
So, I mean, how do parasites get to us? I always thought these were things that primarily exist in other countries.
Well, the main reason here in the U.S. is contaminated drinking water. The other problem is people not washing their hands carefully enough. The other thing that we're seeing is that we're receiving lots of our fruits and vegetables from overseas, as well as people migrating here, traveling, and the regulations for food in particular are not that stringent. There was an episode in the Atlanta farmers market several years ago where a snake arrived wrapped around a large bunch of bananas. So if they can miss a 10-foot-long snake, I think it's safe to say they can miss a tiny, almost microscopic worm that might be living in the digestive tract.
Well, you mentioned size. There are two kinds of parasites that can make you sick and tired. The first of these are visible parasites. They look like worms, right? And the roundworms, for example, they're found in animal feces. Tapeworms that are found in pork and beef. Let me show you what these look like first, then we'll get to the microscopic ones. So here's how these get into your body and infect your body. You're sitting at someplace eating. It could be in this country. And inside the meat or the fish that may have come from another country, you have larvae. And those larvae are digested, and they set up shop right there. See right there? In your gut, as you're digesting, those larvae will hatch. The worm comes out, the jaws hook into your guts like that. They attach to the intestine, and they begin to prosper and grow on you. It robs you of nutrients, causes bleeding. They can grow 50 feet in length. These things will live for 25 years in our guts. And many times you won't know that you've got the problem and pass those eggs on to contaminate the rest of us until you've already passed those eggs along, because you won't have any symptoms from it. So Dr. Chutkin brought me some absolutely fascinating images from the inside of someone who lives in this country, right? See inside, this is what whipworms look like. Again, an endoscopic image. See the little worms here, the little circular things? And they're sort of biting into the gut, and they're eating away at the inside. Can you all see this? Yes, I thought you might notice this. So, Dr. Chutkin, how do these parasites cause anemia?
So what you're showing here is whipworm, otherwise known as trichurias. And this patient had no idea that she was infected with thousands of these little worms. They burrow into the wall of the intestines, and they literally suck your blood. So they absorb blood, they eat it up, and you become anemic, and that leads to fatigue.
So those are the worms you can see. But there's a whole set of other parasites that can be making you exhausted that are microscopic parasites. And we're seeing more and more of these in the U.S. If you could walk us through what these microscopic parasites are.
So the two microscopic ones that are a big problem in the U.S. are Cryptosporidium and Giardia. And crypto was a parasite that was responsible for the outbreak in Milwaukee several years ago.
Yes.
400,000 people were affected, and over 100 people died. And this was from contaminated city water. So chlorine in water does not kill crypto. The other parasite that we see is Giardia. Now, we think of Giardia as something that campers and backpackers get, but Giardia is incredibly common in daycare centers, nursing homes also. So anybody who's handling stool on a regular basis. In fact, we found that 20 to 30% of daycare center workers might be infected with Giardia. And many of them are asymptomatic. They have no symptoms, but they're infectious. They can pass the Giardia on to children. The children then take it home. And so what we're finding is that people who have chronic conditions, irritable bowel syndrome, for example, something I see in my office every day, is that a large percentage of those patients are actually infected with parasites that are responsible for the symptoms.
So now that you're all paying attention, okay, here are the warning signs you might want to look for, besides feeling exhausted. Yellow stool, you get bloating, you get cramps, you get fatigue. You know, all those things can occur, especially acutely in the first 2 weeks after you've been exposed to an infection, but you can get a lingering fatigue that can be misdiagnosed as the irritable bowel that Dr. Chuck had mentioned earlier. So, now that you're all interested in parasites, when we come back, I've got 4 easy ways to prevent a parasite from living inside of you. Now that you know it can be hazardous, you cannot afford to miss this.